Hey everyone, we're going to go ahead and get ready so we can kick off our program. We want to make sure that we leave time at the end if you want to talk to any staff members afterwards, so we definitely want to go ahead and get started. Well, good evening everyone, and welcome to the Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization. It's called the TPO tonight. Our 2022 open house, Way to Grow, planning for a connected transportation system on the Space Coast. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're really excited that you're here, and to our attendees online. My name is Abby Hemingway, and I am the Public Information and Outreach Manager for the Space Coast TPO. And before we get started, I'd like to just go over a few items so you know how tonight is going to work. So first, of course, a few housekeeping items for those in the room. Restrooms are located down the hall. Please silence your cell phones. And please hold all public comments for the formal public comment period after the presentation. We'll go through that process after the event. We'll still be taking comments as well. And my email is on the screen for you. If you're participating on the chat on YouTube Live, please label it as public comment and include your name, email, and contact number. Now tonight we won't read every remark in the chat for YouTube Live, as it may not be productive to the entire program, but all applicable submitted public comments will be read aloud during the public comment portion of the program. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each, and this time frame will be adhered to in order to hear from those here in the room and online. And they will also be part of the public record of tonight's program. While we may acknowledge your comments, this is really not a forum for debate. We ask that you please be respectful. Should you have any further comments or questions, our staff is extremely accessible. We will be here tonight in the room, and also for the governments, state and federal transportation partners, and communities to meet the needs of our local transportation system. The TPO serves as a forum for building consensus and facilitating discussions on how to best prioritize transportation dollars in our county. Georgiana assumed her position at the TPO in August of 2010, and prior to this, she held positions with the Florida Department of Transportation in Orlando and Lake City for over 18 years. Throughout her 29 years of experience in the transportation industry, Georgiana has continued to establish professional relationships with transportation leaders throughout the region and the state. Please join me in welcoming Georgiana Gillette to the podium.
Here, and I'd like you to get to know the TPO a little more, so this is very exciting. We have 8 staff members with a combined 80 years worth of experience, Space Coast TPO experience. And the TPO staff enact the decisions made by our TPO governing board. We are here to prepare documents, foster interagency coordination, and we're having conversations with the Florida DOT, Federal Highway Administration, municipal staff, modal, and transit agencies. We communicate and coordinate with all the different agencies, and we ensure, most importantly, that we're getting public input. And I want to recognize our committee members and some of our governing board members, past and present, that are in the room. We truly appreciate your support. I would also like to recognize Ms. Laura Carter, who's our Assistant Executive Director. Sarah Crom is in the room, our Senior Transportation Planner. And then we have Stephen Bostel in the back of the room as well, who is over our ITS program and long-range plan. And we have 2 more staff members out in the lobby, Jesse and Jillian. So tonight's topics, we'll review who we are, planning for the Space Coast, 9 million people live in these counties. And when it comes to funding, we are competing for funding in the Central Florida region. We want to get as much of that transportation funding here in Brevard County. So there's a lot of needs. As you know, our area is growing. And we know that roads don't stop at the city limits or the county line, and the user really doesn't care who owns the road. They just want to get to where they're going safely and in a reasonable, dependable time. So it's critical that we do view transportation holistically. And as I mentioned, our governing board is where those conversations can take place. The 19 elected officials that we have do an exceptional job for us here in Brevard County. One of the main jobs of the TPO is to identify what transportation improvements will be needed over the next 20 to 25 years. And we have to work with FDOT and our local governments to implement those improvements. And the long-range transportation plan is really the cornerstone upon which all transportation decisions in the region should be based. This is where we set our vision. And we put in policies and operational strategies to achieve it. And these are the goals listed on the slide of our long-range plan. Improve safety and security for all users. Improve economic development with a connected multimodal system. Enhance mobility and reliability of the transportation system. And preserve and provide a resilient transportation system through balancing social and environmental resources. So how does it work? Public involvement is a huge component of the plan. Our system is performance-based, and in an effort to track the success and fiscal responsibility of projects, we develop and track goals. We may not be able to control development plans within a city, but we want to know what's coming. Most of our roads are built out or they're constrained. But we can focus on creating a network that is accessible for all users. Ultimately, our list of needs will far exceed the amount of funds available to complete projects. We have to determine which projects are financially feasible based on the revenue projections. And we present these projects and findings to our committees who make recommendations to our governing board for final approval. In our long-term vision in our planning research and processes, we have found that over the course of the next 40 years, these are the key drivers for a long-term vision for Brevard's transportation needs. We want to invest in our ports, space, sea, and air, continue the investment, continue the high-tech focus. We want more walkable communities, less reliance on automobiles, a wider variety of housing, and more travel options. And our robust transportation system is largely driven by the activities of the Cape Canaveral Spaceport, the Port Canaveral, and the Melbourne-Orlando International Airport. And these strategic intermodal system hubs and the corridors that support them are critical to our state's economy. And right now, looking at trends in freight and logistics, we have supply chain issues that we're experiencing in the state, and we know that it is impacting all of our goods and services and our traffic as we look at how we move people and goods. There's a lot of changes in workspace and transportation. Telework is here to stay. 6% of Florida's workforce works in another state. So 6% of folks living in Florida are working at home on their computers, but they're working for another state, which that is a pretty large percentage. We have innovations like connected and autonomous vehicles, plug-in electric vehicles, ride-sourcing platforms. Micromobility are transforming really how we move and where people live. So as we navigate the uncertainty of the 2020s, this will continue to be a decade of transformation for the region's transportation system. And land use decisions directly impact transportation system and facilities in the region. So land use generates vehicle trips, leading to traffic congestion and costly, expansive roadway capacity improvements. So managing growth of the communities and creating a variety of transportation options is very critical. Enhancing public transportation, pedestrian and bicycle safety, improves network connectivity. And so the first intercity passenger rail connecting cities in over 100 years. I felt like I had to mention this because we do get questions about it all the time. You know, there's over 20 million people living in Florida and 400 million trips between South Florida and Central Florida each year. So it's a lot of trips and that's a lot of congestion. So we need another mode of transportation that's eco-friendly, faster, safer, and it will take, what, 3-hour travel time from Miami to Orlando, and that includes several stops picking up people along the way. And their plan is to open service in early 2023. And this is going to be fantastic for Florida, but of course, as we all want to know, when are we getting a station in Brevard? And Brightline has stated from the very beginning that a station in Brevard really does show great promise, and it is part of their long-term strategic plan. And TPO staff and many of our elected officials have been on a tour. We got to ride the train and experience and see firsthand what the various stations look like. And so a lot of the Brevard delegations are going down and going on a tour with Brightline. There will need to be a ridership study and community partnerships as we move forward. The station location study that we completed back in 2016, it listed the 𝐭𝐭𝐞 location as the strategic location due to the proximity of the port, excuse me. But as we also need to understand the transit connections and the transportation needs of a particular location. And at the end of the day, there needs to be a tremendous amount of community support and a financing plan to help fund the station. They're looking for funding partners. And so I think it's in our future, and we will continue to work very closely with Brightline and our governing board, our elected officials. But we do need to manage expectations because we do have a lot more work to do as a community. But we certainly are up for it, and we're excited to dig into this and move forward in the coming year. So these are just a few interesting slides I'll move through very quickly. This is a look back. Prior to 1960, as you see on this map, there is no I-95. And also look at the development as we move through the years that are showing up on the maps. And of course, in the 60s, you can see a lot more development that is in red. You also have I-95, which was a major road that was built. The Melbourne Causeway was also constructed. And then in the 70s, 528 was constructed, Challenger Parkway and Columbia Boulevard in Titusville. And you can continue on in the 1980s development. The development continues to get heavier and heavier. Then we have the 1990s development, 2010. And then, as you can see, this is our scenario planning. By 2030, we will pretty much be out of land. We're restricted by water on the east and the west, and we need to really look at development as we continue and move forward. Single entry subdivisions and isolated commercial projects exacerbate traffic problems. And so we need to provide multiple travel paths and travel modes when land is developed in the future. And this is something that we can all work together, linking that transportation and land use as we move forward. So I'm going to transition a little bit. We have our Transportation Improvement Program in the back. That's the reason why we are having this open house, is to get comments. But you may be asking, how in the world does projects get into the program for implementation? Where do they come from? Well, we continually monitor the system each year. We take traffic counts. We look at crash data every year, congestion levels, Each local government takes this information and they submit projects to us each year for consideration. And we sort through all of that information to ensure eligibility, that these projects are included in our long-range plan and some of our master plans. And once projects are approved by the respective city councils or the county commission, then they're submitted to the TPO for inclusion in our annual list of project priorities. And we have some copies of those lists in the back as well. The maps are actually in the back of the room. Transportation planning is really a bottom-up process, and it begins with our local elected officials. But the public has a very important role in that process, and that's why we have such a large public involvement program. And this is a slide about our Transportation Improvement Program. Once a project receives funding, it's included into the Transportation Improvement Program, which is really a snapshot of the DOT's work program. And it begins, this is really a relationship of all of our work products. It begins with our 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan that I mentioned earlier. A project then gets added to the annual list of project priorities, and then we turn that list over to DOT, and when it finally receives funding, state and federal funding, then it gets incorporated into the Transportation Improvement Program. So that's really the workflow there. So in our draft TIP, there is over $1 billion programmed on projects in Brevard County over the next 5 years. But they are for a lot of different modes. We have, you can see the long blue line, that's for space and sea. We have aviation, transit, intelligent transportation system technology, bicycle and pedestrian projects, highway and bridge maintenance, highway and bridge capacity projects. All of these projects will improve our quality of life, economic development for our region, and therefore safety. And this is a lot of money. It's real money on real projects coming into Brevard County. And unfortunately, sometimes it can be a very long road to implementation because major capacity projects must go through a very lengthy process. And it could take 10 to 15 years, sometimes even longer, until construction. Funding is also categorical. You can't just necessarily move from one phase to the next phase to the next phase very fluidly because you have to wait on the funding. There are a lot of competing interests, as I mentioned to you previously, in Central Florida. And folks that get up in the front of the line sometimes have a funding match. And again, there's a lot of needs in Florida, and so it has become increasingly difficult to keep up with the transportation demand due to the cost of some of these projects. So I'm just going to touch briefly on some of our priority projects, because I think you really want to talk about projects. And I'll start with the first one, the NASA Causeway Bridge replacement. It is officially under construction. $90 million was awarded to Space Florida from the US DOT for not only the bridge replacement of the vascular bridges, but also for the widening of Space Commerce Way from 2 to 4 lanes and rehabilitating the NASA Parkway. And Space Commerce Way connects Kennedy Parkway to NASA Parkway, and it also provides access to the Kennedy Space Center, Visitor Center, and North Merritt Island and Titusville. So construction will begin later this year or early 2023 for Space Commerce Way. The TPO's #1 priority, and I'm sure some of you remember the big ribbon cutting that we had at the new I-95 and Ellis interchange a little while back. And the new interchange really gives everyone direct access to the airport and to the St. John's Heritage Parkway to the west, which goes all the way down to Malabar Road. This makes the widening of Ellis even more critical to accommodate the traffic for MLB and the numerous businesses on and around the airport property. It will provide relief to the congested corridors, parallel corridors of US 192 and O'Galley as well, as well as I-95. So Brevard County has recently finalized their design plans. This is a county road, so Brevard County was designing the project. FDOT has agreed to administer the right-of-way acquisition phase on behalf of the county, Melbourne and West Melbourne. And that will take place over a couple of years or so. And currently, we only have partial funding for construction. We have about $19.5 million programmed in fiscal year 25-26. But the construction estimate, the latest update on the estimates is up to $40 million. And of course, you all know as estimates are updated here recently or here lately, the cost of asphalt, concrete, steel, everything is skyrocketing. And even though we do have a very large infrastructure bill, the cost of all of these transportation projects and you know, it's a bidder's market. It is making it very difficult, and the costs are just really through the roof. But I want to reiterate it again. This is our #1 priority, and we will be working very closely with all of our stakeholders to get the additional funding and move this as quickly as possible. And you know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I thought I would show this up at the very top. You can see the 2-lane Ellis Road there right at John Rhodes Boulevard. So you can see that it is, it looks like a snake going up. And so again, we need this done as quickly as possible. So the widening of the beach line involves adding a lane in each direction and a multi-use trail on the north side of 528 from US 1 all the way to State Road 401 at the port, the 401 interchange at the port. All of the bridges will be replaced with the exception of the newest eastbound bridge over the Indian River. And the project was identified back in 2000 as needing a widening in the future in our very old long-range plan. The PD&E phase was completed in 2006. That's the environmental phase. And in 2016, the design phase started. So needless to say, the project has been on the books for a long time. And we're hopeful that the design can be finalized and perhaps through a design build, and that the DOT can secure the funding for construction. You know, Port Canaveral is the busiest cruise terminal in the world. And so this is a critical project, and the influence of one mode can really affect a transportation project. So this is a top priority as well. So the importance of 401, now that we're talking about the port, the Bastille bridges over the Canaveral Barge Canal were built in 1963, and they are functionally obsolete. The roadway is vital to current operations at the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, the Canaveral Spaceport, cruise terminal access, and of course port cargo and fuel, which is critically important. The PD&E phase is currently underway. They recently had a public meeting at the port, and the design is planned for this fiscal year, so it will be moving into design, and the plan will most likely be for a high-rise fixed bridge. We want to get away from the movable bridges. Construction remains unfunded, but again, this is a very big importance to the port and to our region as well. So I want to mention another top priority that is fully funded, and it's the intersection improvements at US 192 and Hollywood Boulevard in Evans. And this project is really to increase capacity at the intersection by adding additional turn lanes and a sidewalk on the east side of Evans. And intersection improvements can really give you a lot of bang for the buck. We don't have enough money in our long-range plan, expected revenue, to widen US 192, even though I think we can all look at it and say it would really help if we could. We don't have the funding, and mostly a lot of that corridor potentially could be constrained as well. But intersection improvements such as this is a lot of bang for the buck to really add that additional capacity. Design is complete, and FDOT is in the right-of-way phase, and construction will be advertised July of next year. So this will be happening pretty quickly. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. We have a lot of projects in our transportation improvement program, but those were some of the big ones of really statewide importance. And I could stand up here probably another 30, 45 minutes and talk about projects. But I'd like to kind of recognize the importance of quality of life projects as well. You know, the importance of a well-connected and safe bicycle and pedestrian network is really important for a sense of community identity. We developed a bicycle pedestrian mobility plan, and we work very closely with DOT and our local municipalities to plan and fund these important projects. We have also planned a countywide network called our Showcase Trails, and we're involved in the planning of the regional trails, such as the Coast to Coast Trail, which is now fully funded, the Brevard section, through the Space Center. So I'd like to show just a very short video highlighting one of our showcase trails that we help plan and fund working with Brevard County.
The Brevard Zoo Linear Trail is a multi-use boardwalk and asphalt trail that runs from the zoo east along I-95 through wetlands and 𝐂𝐭𝐞. The 3-mile-long trail ends at Turtle Mound Road in Melbourne. Parking for the trail is located at the Brevard Zoo trailhead. The trail is open from dawn to dusk, and the best part, no admission fee. So grab your walking shoes or a bicycle, invite a friend. There's plenty of great stops along the way. Make sure to keep an eye out for wildlife sightings. So visit the trail today. For more information, go to www.brevardparks.com.
Right. I think that the zoo trail is a very, very popular trail, and everyone enjoys it. Every time you go to the zoo, everyone is using that trail. So let's talk a little bit about Vision Zero. We're required under federal law to adopt transportation performance measures for safety. And the TPO adopted a safety target of 0 to reflect the DOT's goal of 0 deaths. We're talking about all traffic-related deaths. And the reason is crashes are preventable, and we're committed to reaching that goal. We must program or implement projects, plans, and tools that's going to help us achieve the Vision Zero target. And it's going to require a culture shift in how we think and talk about crashes. It is multifaceted, involving not just engineering, but education and enforcement. And that is why we want all of our municipalities to get on board so that they can help us at their level. And we really do need everyone on deck. All of these cities, and including West Melbourne, which I don't think they were the latest to adopt Vision Zero, have adopted Vision Zero. And so we're very, very proud of our Vision Zero cities. An engineering solution, an example of an engineering solution would be Complete Streets. Complete Streets really ties bicycles, pedestrians, and transit modes of travel. Streets are designed to accommodate all users with all abilities. And Complete Street approaches vary based on the community's context. So it is a good example of coordinating land use and transportation. Several of the Complete Streets that we funded here in Brevard County, Hickory Street, Pineapple and Front in Melbourne, Florida Avenue in the Cocoa Village. If you've been down to the village and you went down Florida Avenue, that was one of our projects as well. Improvements to State Road A1A would probably be another example of a complete street, as the DOT updates their implementation plan on how to make A1A safer. There will be various types of projects that will be implemented, and that is, again, it's not a road widening, it's making it safer so everyone can move around the community safely. And this is a very quick Vision Zero video. Hopefully you can hear it.
Did you know in Florida, an average of 800 pedestrians and bicyclists are fatally injured in traffic crashes every year? What do you think is a more acceptable number?
Acceptable? Maybe 50?
Okay, this is what 50 people look like.
Oh, that's my family. My friends.
So now, what do you think is a more acceptable number?
0. Definitely 0.
So we are committed to Vision Zero, and we do think the future makes anything possible, and this is what we will continue to do, working with all of our cities. And I'm going to end the last video on intelligent transportation systems, and this video is a little bit longer, but I think you will find it very interesting. This is the 21st century infrastructure, some of it that you may not be able to see, but that we are working very closely with the DOT and our local municipalities.
Space Coast Transportation Planning Organization here with some technorific news about the current state of our area's growing intelligent transportation system and how our tax dollars can transport us into a safer and even more money-saving, tax-saving, and connected future. All of the intelligent transportation technologies we'll see, current, coming, and future, enable our local travelers to be better informed and make safer, more coordinated, and smarter use of transportation networks while saving money, fuel, and time. Most importantly, our intelligent transportation system will save our local tax dollars in the long run. We'll look at the technologies that are currently deployed, the new tech that's already on the way, and some future tech that's truly game-changing if we choose to adopt it. Let's take a little trip to a local intersection and look at the technologies currently deployed there. Here, we see the intersection of Pineda Causeway and Wickham Road. Let's look at our already deployed closed-circuit television, known as CCTV, and vehicle detection sensors working alongside the high-speed network beneath our feet, and then add in the future possibilities. There's more to our intelligent transportation system than meets the eye, as CCTV allows traffic management staff to get a real-time look at traffic flow and watch for accidents. Vehicle detection with its special sensors automatically detects the presence of vehicles and obstructions on the roadway and instantly warns the management center. Meanwhile, our already on the way crosswalk detection software will use similar vehicle detection sensors to check for people in the crosswalk and warn oncoming traffic day or night and in all weather conditions. Now, let's add in some other existing possibilities like Bluetooth technology, which can detect the speed of vehicles entering and exiting the roadway. The Traffic Management Center now not only sees the intersection, but has much deeper traffic flow data to use for safety and roadway improvements. Speaking of traffic management centers, our new traffic management center is being envisioned as we speak. We're really excited about it. It's the brains of this entire operation, after all. Let's travel to another location and look at some more future possibilities. This is the intersection of US 192 and Hollywood Boulevard. In addition to the technologies we've already seen, this intersection employs another modern technology called signal coordination. Signal coordination uses the vehicle detection sensors to allow other intersections upstream and downstream to communicate with each other and work together to predict traffic flow and adjust the signals, improving traffic flow and saving travelers even more time and money. With the addition of roadside units, direct communication with vehicles becomes possible, providing instant traffic notifications like red light wait times. And with onboard units installed in vehicles, the possibilities are even greater, as vehicles could then communicate directly with each other and the surrounding infrastructure, increasing travel efficiency, safety, and hopefully less road rage. And of course, high above the hustle and bustle, next-generation drones could not only ferry our online purchases, but provide first responders a bird's-eye view of accidents, or even provide updates to your smartphone about foot traffic at a concert, festival, or rocket launch. Of course, new technology is an investment. Our hardware must be updated, maintained, and secured in order for future components to integrate seamlessly, in the same way that we wouldn't hook up a supercomputer to a dial-up internet connection. In the present and in the future, all of these technologies acting together increase safety, optimize our existing infrastructure, and save taxpayers time and money. Well, what are you waiting for? Get involved and support the future of our intelligent transportation system. Let your local elected officials know that you support enhanced traffic operations. Learn more at spacecoasttpo.com. Thanks for watching.
And this is a design rendering of the traffic management center that will be located on the Oneida Causeway just west of the Florida East Coast Railroad. And Brevard County is in the process of designing this, and as the video said, this is the brains of the operation. And Brevard County Traffic Engineering will be in this building, and it is our hope and plan that the TPO staff will be in this building as well. We think it's a very good fit. This is our future, because we cannot continue to widen roads. There's a time and a place for it, but again, we're running out of real estate, and this really will make a difference for safety for our future. So why should you care? Why is it important for our citizens to be involved? Well, we know that transportation impacts everyone. Your input now will impact the next generation of users. And we're working hard to plan for safe roadways, sustainable infrastructure, better connectivity and mobility with all of our partners. Not everyone is aware of who we are and what we do, but we really do play a significant role in how neighborhoods thrive and businesses succeed. Transportation is important. And we really are at the pulse of sustainable road improvements and mobility projects in Brevard County. Our planners are working hard, hand in hand with the city and the county, all of our cities and the county, the state, and our federal partners to execute well-researched projects from start to finish. And we're looking at trends and traffic and growth patterns and safety concerns. We are a good partner for our cities and the county. But at this time, we really want to hear your feedback. You are extremely important to us. And we'd like to get your comments. And Abby, I will kick it to you.
Okay, so we've gone ahead and reached the public comment portion of tonight's program. Again, I'm just gonna, for those in the room, if you would like to have a public comment, please see our staff and fill out a speaker card. Again, this is a formal public comment. Our staff will be here afterwards if you have specific questions related to the presentation or anything you've heard tonight. And if you're viewing online, once again, we'll put the directions there in the live chat. So first, we're going to hear from those who have submitted speaker cards for tonight. And I will go ahead and when I call your name, if you can approach the microphone, and you will have 3 minutes for your public comment. And then these will also be included in the public record of tonight's program. So first up is Charlotte, and I do not want to butcher the last name.
That's me.
Okay.
I put something on my phone, so
Oh, we have a, sorry, we do have a timer. Let me just go ahead and.
That's okay. I'm on the Oneida Causeway. I'm in Grand Haven, and we've had a lot of problems on that road. We've had extensive traffic backups. We've had a lot of accidents on that road. We've had a fatality on that road, and we also have difficulty entering and exiting 2 of our subdivisions, making left-hand turns. We've timed up to 10 minutes for 1 car to get out of those subdivisions between French Street and the peninsula. We've had the sheriffs, we've listened to the county, we've had nobody from the county after we met with Commissioner Smith coming to our rescue. Everything was promised, but we have nothing. We had like to have that traffic light put at Peninsula and French Street. Let me see what else. There's so many things everybody told me to talk about. We've also had 45 Sandhill crane deaths since that road has been opened up. I'm working with Tim at the FWC. We try to document the time and every time of train and where the train was killed. It is the sidewalks and the grass between the traffic trailer that could not stop at that light because they were coming off of 95 at 85 miles per hour. He went right into our, whatchamacallit, I'm just like trying to say something real fast. He hit the hose connection, okay? And everything just went, and that was only feet from our park. And we have a lot of children playing in that park. So we do need that light, we do need the speed on that road decreased because somebody other than the one fatality we did already. You see the bus because they don't go into the subdivisions of those two streets I was telling you about, hit the back of the bus. We had 3 or 4 children hurt, okay, getting on the bus to go to school. So we have a lot of problems between those 2 other subdivisions on the way to Wickham. And something needs to be done. I appreciate it.
If you did fill out a speaker card and if you think of anything else, please feel free to email those comments as well. Thank you. Next is going to be Joe Ellen Dessert.
Desert. I lived in Palm Bay and I live beachside now. I'm a cyclist, so of course my interests are, and a pedestrian of course, and my interests are geared toward that way. Probably once a month I use the Titusville Trail, and so in the course of that then we use the facilities that are there, we go to lunch and do things like that, so we feel like that's a great thing for that community. I understand there were issues with doing that, but what we would like to see, and strongly would like to see, is that trail to come down, like maybe the Vera or something like that, because bike riding in this area, beachside and around here, is not very great. The beach, the zoo path is fine, but it's not for people who want to ride like we do between 40 and 100 miles. You know, it's just not really what we do. We've had deaths from cycling in our area, and we've had pedestrian deaths. And so I just would like to know how we can get matching funds and who we can contact to try and get something like this going. Maybe not for somebody my age to be able to do that, but for people that come through that. I have no idea how long that took, but you know, it'd be fantastic. I've lived all over the United States. I lived in Seattle, and bike trails, my boss, who was a corporate director, basically rode from Redmond all the way into Boeing corporate offices, which were at that time near the airfield. So we can do this, and we have so many people who cycle around here, and they're not just people on small bicycles, they're people who ride all around. And I think we have the ability. I just don't know who I can contact and who we can do to see if we get matching funds. I think from an economic standpoint, this would be very good for our area, and it'd be really good for people who like to be outside 9 months out of the year or whatever. So anyway, if you can let me know about that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stephen, can I see you just for a second for technical assistance? I pull up this card. My apologies on the not saying your last name correctly.
Oh, that's fine. It happens all.
Thank you for some of the information that you've given out tonight. What I haven't heard was anything other than roads and expanding roads. Sidewalks are always good, but we're getting to the point where we don't have enough room for cars. We need some sort of public transportation. Tramways would be wonderful. The buses, I work for Career Source Brevard, and I have a very sour view of the bus system for the county. But we really need to start conversations about tramways so that when they come about, people aren't going, well, I'm not going to ride that. Those other people can ride that. We have a lot of people who can't afford a car, and with the gas prices the way they are, it's going to get worse. So, if we could start ramping up on the tramways and maybe less on widening our already over-widened roads, because cars will fill the space no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Right, our next one is Bill Hodge.
Okay, my comment is about the roundabout proposed in Cape Canaveral at the intersection of International Drive and A1A and North Atlantic. And it's being sold as the only way you can slow down the traffic in Cape Canaveral. But the only place the traffic's going to be slow is the roundabout. People are going to be speeding up to the roundabout. As soon as they leave the roundabout, they're going to be speeding right back up. So I don't see that as a good reason. But what I do see is you're asking for a comment about saving money. To me, instead of spending $17 million on a roundabout, you could probably spend half that, or less than half that, just make the four-way stop sign, four-way intersection, which is what we originally asked for in Cape Canaveral, and then take the rest of the money and improve the road going up to the port. And that's my comment.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next up is an Eric. I'm probably going to butcher the last name.
I'm getting dizzy. That's why I switched from a bicycle to a tricycle. Okay, my name's Eric Hoagland. I just moved into this county a while ago. My primary issue is bicycling and now tricycling. And I have some experience which I think can be addressed. First off, I like to ride some distances. I can't do as much, but from north to south in this county, I've found out that you've got pretty good trails out of Volusia with the coast-to-coast connector, and down to Titusville and then off over to the beach. And from Titusville down to Melbourne Beach, it's kind of spotty. I haven't really tried much of it, and for people who have to address it better, but just for my driving, I'm leery of it. And then get the River Road out of along from Woody's Barbecue down to the Vieira area. That's nice. You go to Cocoa High Point, get your 83-foot climb on it, right? But then once you get down, if you have to ride US 1, I hang a pool noodle off the side of my tricycle. And I let cars wonder if I have a steel reinforcing spike in it. I don't, but I let them wonder about it. And I came along US 1, and guess what? People were going to the far lane from me. They saw that thing, okay? But then from Melbourne Beach down to Indian River County and onto Pelican Island Wildlife Refuge was great. I mean, you got a nice 75-foot hill on Sebastian Inlet. You got good hill climbing, right? Now, so anyway, but some means of getting connectivity north-south, and then look at east-west connectivity. You got the coast-to-coast connector trail going from Playlinda Beach to St. Petersburg. And we have mainly an entree into that, and we have the far eastern section. There is something in the bicycle world this county, the transportation organization should be aware of and get into, called the 100floridatrails.com. And everyone, you got Facebook, everyone says, where do I ride in Florida? I say, look this one up. People are thanking me all over the place. We should get more, the goal should be more trails listed in that website. I noted also is you have Space Commerce Way, that's part of the Intercoastal Waterway Century Route for bicycles. East-west, but coast-to-coast connector, Florida 50, 520, 190, US 192, whatever. Port bicycle facilities, and basically look at ways to get across east-west across the county as well as north-south. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
You're welcome. Hope people can hear me.
Our next in-person public comment is Ms. Sandra Sullivan.
Wonderful event, thank you. I have a couple questions. I drive by Pineda, Whitcomb intersection, frequently see debris from accidents. I'm just wondering, with an ITS system, and I was at your TPO meeting when they did the presentation, what are the statistics for how that has reduced, or if it has reduced the number of accidents in that intersection? If you don't mind commenting on that. And then also, I noticed in coming back and forth to Vieira that Pineda area is backed up a lot. And have you or are you intending to do a traffic study on that road during the height of the season when the winter snowbirds are here specifically? And then the third question I have is, you mentioned the municipalities that you're working with for Vision Zero, and my question is, if you could comment a little bit what the county is doing in that regard. And I would be particularly curious, since a lot of accidents are beachside, on the lack of sidewalks in areas, whether there's some plan there, and we're putting some in now in the Sally Beach municipality, but in the county areas. And lastly, I noticed a change. It came a little longer than I thought it would take, but it was obvious to me that the center on the crosswalks, which are very controversial, there's always hundreds of comments on social media on a regular basis, and people don't like them. Red means stop, and concerns, but that middle marker is an obstruction in the road, and now they've taken away, because I'm sure FDOT was replacing them on frequent regularity. So now it's an obstruction in the road with a pole, and I would be concerned about possible litigation, because that, under my understanding, is federally there's not supposed to be an obstruction in the road, just whether that is a concern for TPO. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this point, if you're in person and you'd like to submit a public comment card, please let us know. Otherwise, at this point, we're going to go ahead and read some of the comments that were submitted to us ahead of time via email, and then we'll read any on the YouTube Live for our virtual attendees. So the first one comes from a Mr. Carl Kaiserman. Members of the TPO, thank you for this opportunity to update a previous opinion about the East Coast Greenway as it relates to the City of Melbourne. I'm Carl Kaiserman, an architect emeritus and board member of A1A Space Coast and the Brevard chapter of the American Institute of Architects, and I volunteered with 𝐵𝐺AG Main Street since 2010. I find it sad that in my involvement over the last 12 years, I have not seen your strong support for a pedestrian and bicycle path connecting historic 𝐂𝐨𝐬𝐲𝐬𝐿 and downtown historic Melbourne, your two city cores. It is a national trail that has been embraced along the entire eastern seaboard from the Canadian border to Key West, Florida. This imaginative and desirable connected system of greenways and trails seeks to provide recreation, conservation, alternative transportation, healthy lifestyles, a vibrant economy, and a high quality of life for our state and nation. Instead, for the City of Melbourne, it has been relegated to a minor passage beachside along Riverside Drive. The desirable path would be along the Indian River Lagoon parallel to US 1 with access to your business and historic cores and offering magnificent water views. He also submitted a map in coordination with this. The City of Melbourne already has a plan for acquiring frontage along the Indian River Lagoon to provide for a linear park, and it has begun to allow development along the route as well, but has failed to knit the possibility for a connected pathway into the future. Now is the time to connect the dots. Now is the time to make it an element of the Greenway. My organization, A1A Space Coast, has continually expressed willingness to provide technical assistance. Your CRAs and Main Streets would be delighted to have the additional national attention. All that is needed is the will to make it happen. Sincerely, Carl Kaiserman. Our next one comes from Ms. Linda Hagan. Since I cannot attend the meeting tonight, here are my comments. As a longtime resident of the City of Cape Canaveral, I am opposed to the planned modern roundabout. I have attended the meetings held in our city, and I am vehemently opposed to the plan. Our next one comes from a Mr. J. Petty. I am pleased that the SCTPO is bringing forth through this open house discussion of the DOT plan for development of the area. Broader communication, including total and local plans, could help understanding with more affected residents aware of the plans. However, I have only recently been aware of this meeting and presentation as an example. It could be my lack of digging, or it could be due to a short notice. It gives the feeling of plans moving forward with or without public involvement. It's surprising how much people respond when given a chance to do so. My understanding is that the DOT is to project a continuity with projects, which I'm curious to see. I do have a concern of continuity within Cape Canaveral on Route A1A. I understand the project for a roundabout near the intersection of International Drive, North Atlantic Avenue, and Astronaut Boulevard is approved and funded. However, I understand there are plans for the entry to Cape Canaveral near George King Boulevard, but that is not funded. Since this project is intended to slow traffic on A1A, my concern is the construction of the roundabout is somewhat the cart before the horse. The entire project plan for Cape Canaveral could be more cohesive, successful, with more public communication before now. It seems in very simple terms that slowing traffic could be accomplished through addition of more traffic lights to cause traffic to stop and go, plus add more pedestrian crosswalks to encourage people to use them. At this time, crosswalks are avoided since they are far apart. People run to the middle of the road and wait for a chance to complete their crossing. Bicycle traffic is also impacted, as they could use more crosswalks. However, bikes and pedestrians should be compelled to follow walking and biking rules, such as low traffic and stop signs and traffic lights. I'm in favor of the improvement in traffic flow and minimizing traffic accidents and pedestrian injury. However, I hope we are attempting to accomplish that most simply and not simply improving creative engineering. The next one comes from Ms. Sarah Hodge. Dear SCTPO members, we are opposed to the roundabout proposed going to the City of Cape Canaveral. We, the residents of Cape Canaveral and Cocoa Beach, travel the A1A corridor through Cape Canaveral on a regular basis, are not convinced that installation of a roundabout at the intersection of A1A and International Drive is in the best interest of the community, nor do we believe the roundabout plan rendering provides the safest approach to change. We are imploring you to work with the Florida Department of Transportation and get them to offer alternative designs to a roundabout. The one in Vieira has a high accident and death rate. We have thousands of tourists, foreign visitors, and cruise passengers that will travel this roundabout area and are not familiar with them along with local citizens. The oil tankers, large semi-trailers, large RVs, trucks with boats, including the super boats, fire engines, school buses, etc. There will be accidents and death because of this roundabout. We need the speed limits lowered and enforced. We need reasonable, logical, and practical improvements to improve safety of pedestrians, bicycles, and drivers without putting in a roundabout. Please make this an immediate and priority action before this project is approved. The citizens will continue to fight this, even if the FDOT approves it. Roundabouts have been removed after being built. Remember the initiative petition that stopped the 6 laning of A1A. Thank you for your consideration of this matter and any assistance you may provide. And then I had one more that was submitted to me, so I'm just to pull it up in a different way. This one comes from Lori Cherez. Her first suggestion is to ease traffic and minimize accidents, create right turn and center turning lanes on main roads like Wickham north of 192. For example, a right turn lane would be helpful to get to the senior center on Culver going north on Minton. I often have to wait a light or two to get to the intersection to make the right turn. It makes me nervous to sit in that lane as I've already had a rear end accident while waiting at a light and suffered permanent damage. Really don't want that to happen again. You can pause it for a minute so I can read for everyone. Okay. She has a few more suggestions for improvement in southern Brevard area. Number 1, extend Dairy Road and Hollywood roads north to Malabar. This should ease traffic on Minton and Babcock, which can be treacherous. We need alternatives in this area. 2, extend Jupiter north as far as possible. 3, would love to see St. John's Heritage Parkway extended north as much as possible to get to 𝐵𝐵𝐴𝐴 without getting on 95. And 4, instead of driving north to 192 to get to the beach, please consider building a Malabar Causeway. I once had an interview on Melbourne Beach and it took me 45 minutes to get there. I would often travel there more if I had the opportunity to. I worked for years on 192 and can attest that it's in peril. Thank you. So this is the last call for anyone in the live chat. If you have any comments that you'd like us to read on your behalf, otherwise if we don't see any, we can conclude the public comment period. Okay, I'm seeing none. I do want to just, as a friendly reminder, our staff is going to be in the room here tonight afterwards. If you have any specific questions about projects or anything you heard tonight, you're also able to still email me any public comments that you'd like to include. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I'm going to turn it back over to Georgiana to close us out.
Well, it's not going to my next slide. Just one more slide, I promise. Every one of you for showing up and to acknowledge, the very thoughtful comments. I mean, they covered a lot of interesting subjects, Pineda, biking trails, transit, a lot of comments about the roundabout, which is a very important project for Cape Canaveral, and so I understand the interest and the concern. And also, trails, and there's comments about safety, widening and extending roadways, so it really does cover the rampant of transportation, and so these are very, very thoughtful. All of these comments will be incorporated into our draft transportation improvement program. In the document, we have a public comment section, and this document is sent to the Florida Department of Transportation and is also sent to the Federal Highway Administration. There's state and federal funding in here in this document. Again, as I mentioned, over $1 billion. And so it's important that we make it very clear the expressions from the public on what they think is important in this plan. If there's anything that you did not mention and you think of something different, we're going to keep this comment portal open on our website at spacecoasttpo.com until July 14th, which is up until the time that our governing board will be adopting our transportation improvement program. Again, we truly appreciate your time. At this point, this really concludes our program. For our virtual attendees, you may submit questions to spacecoasttpo.com, and we will be getting back with you and addressing them one-on-one. And for the folks in the room, please hang out, get to meet staff. If you have any questions specific to technology or intelligent transportation system, Mr. 𝐶𝐶𝐲𝐬𝐿 is the expert in that area. Our public involvement program, Abby is over our program and she does an amazing job. Sarah Crom, here at the front, she is not only over our resiliency program, our resiliency master plan, but she works very closely with Space Coast Area Transit. That was an important question, so that we coordinate with Brevard County on transit projects. And she's also our bicycle and pedestrian coordinator as well. So she's one of our planners. And Jillian and Jesse is up there, and they have our board services administrator and our contracts and finance manager. So of course I'm here and would love to chat with you more. If we don't know the answer to your question, we will be getting back with you. We have your information. And or if you would, not like to speak with anyone, we will be getting back with you. So again, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you very much for your time.
Make sure you follow us to stay in tune about events like tonight.